So today we'll be discussing about leukorrhea. What is leukorrhea? Leukorrhea is nothing but excessive vaginal discharge. Okay. So before discussing about the leukorrhea proper, we'll see about the anatomy of the vagina. Vagina is nothing but a fibromuscular canal connecting the cervix to the introitus. Okay. It consists of 4 fornices. Okay. And the posterior wall of the vagina is longer than the anterior wall. Now this vaginal discharge is contributed by other glands, okay, because vagina as such has no glands. It is contributed by the endocervical glands, endometrial glandular secretions, the sweat and sebaceous glands of vulva, the Bartholin's gland, the apocrine glands of vulva. Okay. Now this Bartholin gland secretion will be there during sexual excitement. Okay. And vaginal epithelium. Now the vaginal epithelium is a stratified squamous epithelium, which means that it is in multiple layers. Okay. So there are 3 types of main types of cells in the vagina: the superficial cell, the intermediate cell, and the parabasal cell. Okay, what we have to remember here is that superficial cell is eosinophilic. Okay, and superficial cells are predominant under estrogenic influence. So superficial cells for eosinophilic, for estrogenic influence. Okay, intermediate cells are more predominant under progesterone influence. Okay, and both intermediate and parabasal cells are basophilic. Okay. Next is parabasal cell. Parabasal cells are predominant in the lack of any hormonal activity. So during menopause, postmenopausal period, and during the phase prior to puberty, from childhood phase, in that phase parabasal cells will be predominant. Okay. So here we see some acidophilic cells. Okay, these are superficial cells, and here we can see some bluish cells. Here also some bluish cells. These are the parabasal cells and the intermediate cells. Okay. So acidophilic cells will be pinkish in color, and the intermediate cells and the parabasal cells are basophilic, so they will be bluish in color. Okay. Now what is maturation index? Maturation index is the relative percentage of parabasal, intermediate and superficial cells per 100 cells counted. Okay. So it is written as parabasal bar intermediate bar superficial. So remember the mnemonic PIS. Okay. Always remember, this is always comes in the MCQs. Next, see this. This is very important. This will come in the MCQs. At birth, there will be some estrogen and some progesterone. Okay. So PIS, you remember. So there will be some progesterone, and there will be some minimal amount of estrogen from the mother to the baby. Okay. It lasts for 10 days after birth. Okay. So till 10 days it will be 0, 95 and 5. Now see what happens in childhood. Childhood, there is no predominant hormone. So the parabasal cells will be predominant, followed by the intermediate cells, and due to no estrogen at all, there will be no this superficial cells. Okay. Now in the reproductive period, it varies according to the phases of menstruation. Okay. In the pre-ovulatory period, there will be less progesterone. Okay. So it will be 0, 40, 60. In the secretory phase, there will be more progesterone and less estrogen. So it will be 0, 70, 30. Okay. During pregnancy, what happens? Pregnancy is a progesterone state. Okay. So 0, 95, 5. Remember this. In the postmenopausal, just remember 100, 0, 0. 100, why? Because there is no hormones at all. No estrogen, no progesterone. So parabasal cells will be more prominent. So it will be 100, 0, 0. Okay. So here you can see some basophilic cells. Basophilic cells means you can rule out superficial cells. So it is a progesteronic state. Progesteronic state as in it happens in pregnancy, during pill use, if the patient is using pills. Okay. And if the patient is using corticosteroids. Okay. Or patient is using androgens. then all this will produce this basophilic cells. Okay. Now this, as you all know, vagina will have a bacteria. It is known as Jordalins bacillus or lactobacillus. Its function is to convert the glycogen to lactic acid, and as a result of this acid, the vaginal pH will be acidic. Okay. So the high acidic pH of vagina, what it does, it prevents the occurrence of various infections. Okay. So in absence of vaginal acidic pH, there will be various infections which will occur. So what happens? Jordalins bacilli is present at birth due to maternal estrogen. Till 10 days it lasts, okay, as already discussed before. And it reappears again at puberty. And it maintains throughout the reproductive period and again disappears at menopause. So here you see the vaginal pH according to the age. At birth, up to 10 days, it will be acidic because of maternal estrogen, okay. Before puberty, it will be 6 to 8. Why? Because there will be no estrogen. And at puberty, again it changes from this alkaline pH to acidic pH. And reproductive age, it will be average 4.5. At menopause, again the same thing will continue, 6.8. At pregnancy and during menstruation, at pregnancy it will be 3.5. Why? Because it is a hyperestrogenic and hyperprogesteronic state, okay. During menstruation, what happens? It again increases the vaginal pH. So during menstruation, if any coitus is made or any such predisposing conditions will be there, it will lead to vaginal infections. So how do you distinguish physiological leukorrhea from pathological leukorrhea? In physiological leukorrhea, there will be no leukocytes in the, and to rule out any pathological cause, we should always do a speculum examination, okay. We should see the type of discharge, whether it is curdy white, whether it is mucoid, whether it is purulent, whether any foul smell is coming from that discharge, okay. And then other investigations should be done to rule out the STDs, okay, serological tests and all that, okay. Then physiological what are the physiological causes of leukorrhea, okay. At puberty, due to increasing endogenous estrogen, it will lead to overgrowth of the endocervical epithelium, okay. This endocervical epithelium is columnar, which when it encroaches into the ectocervix, it produces a state of cervical ectopy, okay. This will lead to increased secretion, okay. Next is during menstrual cycle. During menstrual cycle, during 2 phases, it will cause increased white discharge around ovulation and during premenstrual phase. Around ovulation, because there is sudden increase in the estrogen level. Along with progesterone, during ovulation, the estrogen also increases. So it leads to increased secretory activity of the cervical glands. And in the premenstrual phase, there will be increase in pelvic congestion. So it will cause increased discharge, okay. And pregnancy, due to the same reason, it is a hyperestrogenic state and it will lead to increased vascularity. So it will lead to increased vaginal transudate and cervical gland secretion. Now pathological causes, okay. So pathological causes, it can be cervical or it can be vaginal, okay. Cervical causes are cervical ectopy, chronic cervicitis, mucus polyp and ectropion. You should always remember that ectropion and ectopy are not same, okay. Ectropion is nothing but inversion, okay, inversion of the cervix, and cervical ectopy I'll discuss in a while, okay. What are the vaginal causes? Vaginal causes are due to associated pelvic infection or pelvic congestion, okay. So pelvic inflammation, it can be acute or chronic, it might lead to vaginal discharge, okay. Vaginal adenosis. What is vaginal adenosis? It is caused by DES, okay. It is an important MCQ, diethylstilbestrone, and pill use, okay. And then uterine prolapse. Why? Because it causes inversion of the vaginal wall. As a result of this, there will be some decubitus ulcer and vagina will be exposed to the outer atmosphere. So it will lead to dryness and infection of the vagina, okay, and acquired retroverted uterus also, it might cause discharge. Now cervical ectopion, okay. So what is ectopion? As you can see here, this is the endocervix, okay, and this is the ectocervix, okay. This endocervix is lined by columnar epithelium and the ectocervix is lined by squamous epithelium, and the junction between the two epithelium is known as the squamo-columnar junction, okay, squamo-columnar junction. So what happens in ectopy is that there is overgrowth of the endocervical epithelium and it grows into the ectocervix, okay. So this columnar epithelium is exposed to the high pH of the vagina, okay, and it gives a appearance like this, okay. It is not ectopion, it is ectopy, okay. So normally healthy cervix will look like this, and cervical ectopy, if it is there, it is not ectopion, it is ectopy, okay. If it is there, then it will look like this. So normal vaginal discharge is contributed by the following glands, as already told: Bartholin gland, sweat gland, sebaceous gland, the Skene's gland, okay, the vulvar secretions, okay, endometrial glands, okay. So as already discussed, the physiological causes of vaginal discharge, it will happen in newborn, it will happen during the time of puberty. In reproductive phase, it will occur in the menstrual, in accordance with the menstrual phase, okay. In menstruation, it occurs in the premenstrual phase and during the time of ovulation. All these things has been discussed before, okay. Pathological also discussed before. Now coming to the individual causes of leukorrhea, okay. So there is a term called vaginitis in infancy and childhood, okay. It happens, why? Because of the alkaline pH of vagina, okay. As a result of this alkaline pH, it will be invaded by various bacteria, okay. So it will cause vaginal discharge, okay. And if there is vaginitis in infancy and childhood, we should always rule out two things: one is foreign body and one is tumor. What tumor? Vaginal adenosis. It is caused by diethylstilbestrone, okay. So I'm giving you one assignment. You should tell me, what does diethylstilbestrone do in the genitourinary system of a female child, okay. This is your assignment. Please post it as comments, okay. Now atrophic vaginitis, it happens in the postmenopausal phase. It happens due to decreased estrogen. As a result of decreased estrogen, there will be thinning of the vaginal epithelium and decrease in the acidic environment. As a result, so many bacteria will come and invade, okay. So what it presents with? It presents with dysuria, it presents with dyspareunia, it presents with postcoital bleeding, okay. So what we should do? The treatment is mainly, because we know the bacterial invasion is there, so we should give antibiotics along with estrogen. Estrogen we can give locally. Locally it is given as Premarin cream, okay, Premarin. And systematically hormone replacement therapy is given, okay. Hormone replacement therapy is now replaced by hormonal menopausal therapy, okay. This is the new term for hormone replacement therapy, okay. Now candidiasis, as you all know, the other name for candidiasis is moniliasis, okay, moniliasis. So what are the predisposing factors? The main important MCQ which will come from here is that this candidiasis occurs in acidic pH. Even if the pH of the vagina is acidic, it can happen, okay. Other risk factors are diabetes, obesity, pregnancy, too much of antibiotics which will destroy the lactobacillus in the vagina. Then contraceptives, low immunity in the premenstrual phase, okay. And in the menstrual phase also, you know, the pH will be 6 to 8. So in that time also this candidiasis can happen, okay. Now coming to the treatment. If it is uncomplicated, the treatment of choice is azoles, okay. If it is uncomplicated, the treatment of choice is azoles. What are the azoles? Itraconazole, fluconazole. Okay, itraconazole and fluconazole can be given as single dose. The most commonly used treatment is fluconazole, 150 mg per oral start. It is a single dose. Okay, if it is complicated, we have to give multiple doses of fluconazole, once in a week dose, or else we can give thrice continuously and then weekly for 6 months. Okay, along with it we can give cotrimoxazole. Now bacterial vaginosis. Okay, so main important thing is Amsel's criteria here. What is Amsel's criteria? There are four criteria. One is homogeneous vaginal discharge. Homogeneous vaginal discharge, and typically it will be grayish white in color. Next is pH should be more than 4.5. That means it occurs in alkaline pH. Very important. Okay. Next is clue cells. What are clue cells? Clue cells are stippled epithelium. Stippled epithelium, stippled vaginal epithelium laden with coccobacillus. Okay. Now Weave test. What is Weave test? We'll add a drop of KOH to vaginal discharge. Okay, and it will lead to fishy odor. That is known as Weave test. Okay. Now treatment is metronidazole and clindamycin. Okay. Trichomonas. Trichomonas, it is a protozoa. It is not a bacteria. It is a protozoa. It is mainly sexually transmitted, and the main thing about this is it causes watery discharge. Watery discharge. Okay, and it will lead to intense pruritus. There will be so much of pruritus. Patient will complain of pruritus. And you should always remember strawberry vagina or strawberry cervix happens in trichomoniasis. Okay, treatment is metronidazole we should give. Okay, and we should always treat the partner also. And if any intercourse is happening, we should ask them to use barrier contraceptives. Okay, till both the partners are cured. Then mucopurulent cervicitis is caused by mainly two bacteria. One is Neisseria gonorrhoeae and one is Chlamydia trachomatis. Okay, so the treatment is either single dose ceftriaxone 125 mg IM, or else for chlamydial infection we can give doxycycline or azithromycin. Okay, we must also treat the partners. And in neoplasm, what happens is, if the neoplasm is a growth, like in cervical carcinoma, okay, suppose this is the cervix, okay, in cervical carcinoma one cauliflower like growth will be there. Okay, so what happens is it will become infected. As a result of this infection, it will lead to foul smelling vaginal discharge. Okay, only if infected, this neoplasm will lead to discharge. Okay, apart from that, in childhood, vaginal adenosis will lead to, even if not infected, it will lead to vaginal discharge. Now, in common, what is the management? We should advise the patient personal hygiene. We should rule out the pathological causes like in cervical or any vaginal causes of leukorrhea. Okay, then antiseptic pessaries we can give, like betadine pessary we can give, and vaginal dousing with a mild antiseptic solution may be helpful in removing the discharge. Okay, now see this is very important. Two things are important here. Clue cells, it is characteristic of bacterial vaginosis. So what is the causative organism for bacterial vaginosis? Previously it was believed that it is due to Gardnerella vaginitis. Okay, Gardnerella vaginalis. Okay, but the new concept is that along with Gardnerella vaginalis, some other bacteria also play a role. What are those bacteria? One is Bacteroides species, one is Peptococcus, one is Mobilincus, and Mycoplasma. Okay, so Mycoplasma hominis, Mobilincus, Peptococcus, and Bacteroides species. Okay, all this together it causes bacterial vaginosis. So bacterial vaginosis is having multiple etiology. Okay, multiple causative agents. And one more thing which is more important here is candidiasis will happen also in acidic pH. Also chlamydia can happen in acidic pH. Okay, but bacterial vaginosis and trichomoniasis, both of this happens in alkaline pH. You should remember this. And pruritus is the most common feature of trichomoniasis. Also it happens in candidiasis. Apart from this, in candidiasis the discharge will be curdy white. Okay, it is also known as cottage cheese appearance, the discharge. If we explain it, it will be cottage cheese appearance. Okay, and trichomoniasis, it will be greenish yellow. Bacterial vaginosis, you know, it will be grayish white. Okay, grayish white. In trichomoniasis, greenish white, but it will be watery. It will not be mucoid. Okay, it will be watery. And treatment, as you can see here. Okay, so this is all. Any doubts, you can post it here. So I'll be telling my MCQs. You just put it as your comments. Okay, first MCQ is, which of the following is multibacterial in origin? Okay, option 1 is syphilis, option 2 is lymphogranuloma vanadium, option 3 is bacterial vaginosis, and option 4 is herpes genitalis. Okay, next is one broad question about, write a short note on bacterial vaginosis. Do this assignment and just post it to me. Okay, thank you. So one more thing I forgot to discuss is that cytohormonal study. Okay, cytohormonal study of the vagina is done to see the hormonal influence. Okay, so for cytohormonal study, the specimen is collected from the lateral vaginal wall. Okay, it is always collected from the lateral vaginal wall and from the upper 2/3. Okay, upper 2/3 of the vagina and the lateral wall. Okay, lateral vaginal wall. This thing you should be remembering.